Hi, and welcome to DC Tutorials. So in this video, we'll be doing the Term 1 Common Test paper from the KwaZulu-Natal province. So as you'll notice, this question is actually loaded with a lot of algebra questions, and by algebra I'm referring to simplify, factorize, and solve for x. And these particular concepts, they're very important for your grade 10 because they form part of the foundation of everything that you learn in mathematics. So that's why I want to stress these parts over and over again so that you guys can be okay with them. Is that fine? So if that's cool, then let's move on to the next. Let's dive into the questions, right? So the structure of the paper is actually similar regardless of which province you're in. It's more or less. So the common paper that you write in March or April typically consists of about 75 marks. You're going to write it for about an hour or 2 hours at most. And the first part of the questions will be, the number system, and of course, rational numbers, irrational numbers. And of course, you also do a lot of algebra. So simplifying, factorizing, making things subject of the formula, as well as solve for x, right? And so let's do question 1, right, which is a MCQ based question. So please pardon me for these images. Of course, they prove that this paper, I do not own the paper itself. This paper is actually extracted from this particular website. Now, let me not waste time. Let's get to the business, okay? So we're given 1.1, question 1, and of course, question 1 is made up of, I think, 10 questions, 1.1 being the first question, right? So 1.1 says, if k is a negative single-digit integer, which of the following is not a possible value of 2 minus k? So I'll repeat it so that you guys can understand, right? So if k is a negative single-digit integer, which of the following is not a possible value of 2 minus k, right? So in other words, what are they saying? K is a negative single digit, meaning it can either be -1, -2, -3, -4, right? -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, or -9. So any one of these digits satisfy this particular condition. So if k is given as a negative single digit number, which one of the following is not a possible value of 2 minus k? And they said 2 minus k is, in fact, you can think of 2 minus k as our function. So the minimum value that we can get, right, of 2 minus k will be what? Will be 2 minus 1, which is 3. And the maximum value of 2 minus k that we can get is 2 minus 9, which is 2 plus 9, which is 11. So that means 2 minus k will lie between 3 and 11, right? So let's go back to the question, right? Which one of the following is not a possible value of 2 minus k? Does 4 lie between 3 and 11? Yes, it does. Does 8 lie between 3 and 11? Yes, it does. What about 10? 10 as well. But there is one particular option that does not satisfy this condition. It doesn't fall between 3 and 11, and that will be 12, right, guys? So that means the correct answer here is D. And then we move on to the next question. So that's saying An irrational number that lies between 5 and 6 is cube root of 28. And last time I checked, cube root of 28 is very, very close to the cube root of what? Of 27. So meaning it's very, very close to 3. So does 3 lie between 5 and 6? No, it doesn't. Now what about 20 plus 8, which is 28? What about the square root of 28? What can we say about the square root of 28? So the square root of 28, logically speaking, square root of 28 lies between which two square roots? It lies between the square root of 36 and the square root of 25. Can we all see that? Right? It lies between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. And the square root of 28, therefore the square root of 28 lies between which numbers? 6 and 5. Now, without proving that the other ones are correct, we can just choose this one right away as the right answer. Does that make sense? Because if 28, in fact, lies between 5 and 6. So there's only one number, one option that is true. An irrational number that lies between 5 and 6 is square root of 28. I don't have to check the other ones because I know that this one, I'm confident that this one is correct. Does that make sense, guys? Now, carrying on to the next question. Right? Moving on to the next question. They're saying simplify the following. Negative 3x squared y into 5xy squared plus xy, close the bracket. So negative 3x squared y times 5xy squared is going to give us what? It's going to give us what? Negative 15, right? 15 what? X cubed, y cubed. Can we all see that? X squared and x give us x cubed. Y and y squared will give us y cubed. Now, we're done with distributing the first term. Now let's distribute the second term. Now, negative 3x squared y times xy is going to be negative. So yeah, it's going to be what? Negative 3x cubed y squared. Now, which of these options that we have here in our multiple choice questions, which one corresponds with the answer that we found? And the one that corresponds, there's only one option that corresponds with the answer that we found, and it's what? It's C, right? So C is the correct one. Negative 15xy x cubed y cubed minus 3x cubed y squared. We move on to the next question. Now in this question, they're saying the formula for the volume of a cone is given as V equals to 1/3 pi radius squared height. The radius R of the cone may be expressed as. Now guys, here we need to be smart. There's something that we need to do. And what is it? We need to multiply the left-hand side by 3, because 3 is our denominator, is our lowest common denominator. So 3 is our LCD, right? And 3 being our LCD, what does that mean? It means we multiply left-hand side by 3 and right-hand side by 8. And when we do that, we're going to have 3V equals pi radius squared height, right? Because the 3's will cancel out on this side. And we have to make R the subject. And how do we do that? We have to divide by pi height. We also have to divide here by pi height. So that means R squared is what? 3V all over pi height. Now we take a square root of both sides. So R is what? Can we say plus minus? No, we cannot say plus minus. You know why? Because radius is a measurement for what? Is measured in what? It's actually a measurement of something. So we cannot have negative radius. Does that make sense? That's like saying we have negative age or negative time. No, it's a measurement of a parameter. So it's an absolute value. It's a measurement of a positive parameter. So it's an absolute value. Therefore, r is the square root of 3v all over pi height, right? So which one of these is the correct answer? The correct answer is in fact A. Can we all see that? Let me use the same color that I've been using everywhere. The correct answer will be A, right? Moving on to the next question. Now for this question, what are they saying? Okay, if A cubed plus 27 equals to A plus 3 into A squared plus MA plus 9, then M equals, what is the value of M, guys? Now remember, what are we doing here? These are, what do we call these two terms, by the way? We call them the sum of two perfect cubes. And when we factorize a sum of two perfect cubes, we always take the square root of this. In one bracket, it's a binomial. The other bracket is going to be a trinomial. So the part which is a binomial, we just take the cube root of a cubed, which is a, plus, and the cube root of 27, which is 3. We close the bracket, we open another bracket with the binomial, and we take a, we square it. And for the last term, we take 3, we square it. But for the middle term, we say 3 times a, right? Which gives us 3a. But we need to remember, if we have a positive here, it's going to be negative. So that means we have negative 3a here in the middle. So then m equals what? M equals negative 3. Can we all see that? Right? So that's why in this case, B is the correct answer. Now, moving on to the next question. Factorize the following, right? 4x squared minus 3x minus 27, right? Now, they've already done the hard part for us. They've already factorized it for us, right? We just need to check which answer is correct. Now and how do we do that? We have to check. Do you like this? Like this? Like this? Like this? Like that? Like this? Like that? No. Like this. Ugh, you see what I'm doing now? This and that, this and that, this and that, this and that. Now, 2x and negative 6. 2x and negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 18 will not give us negative 3 in the middle. So this one is wrong. This one is wrong. 2x and 3 is 6, positive 6. Positive 6 minus 18 will not give us minus 3 in the middle. 4x negative 3 is what? Negative 12. Negative 12x plus 9x. Yes, this one, it does give us negative 3x in the middle. Because it's what? It's negative 12x plus 9x, right? What about this one? 4x plus 3. This one is positive 12x. Positive 12x minus 9x. So this one gives us positive 3x. So which one is correct? I know right away that the correct one is going to be C. Why? Because it's the only one that gives me negative 3 for the middle term. So when you factorize this one, it's going to be 4x and x, 9 and 3, right? Negative 1 here, positive here. These are the correct factors. So C is the correct answer. And moving on. Simplify the following. X squared minus 25 all over 25x minus 125. How do we do that, guys? So this one is a very easy one. we factorize the numerator and independently, separately. Then we also factorize the denominator separately. Does that make sense? So x squared minus 25 is what? It's the difference between two perfect squares. And of course, when you factorize the difference between two perfect squares, you are expecting a binomial times a binomial. The factor of x squared is x and x. And then negative 25. What is it? So the square root, you ask yourself, what is the square root of x squared? That is x. Then you drop the sign, which is negative. What is the square root of 25? That is 5. And then you repeat the same stuff with the positive sign. So instead of x minus 5, I'm going to say x plus 5 this side. And this is how you factorize a difference between two squares. What about this one? 25x minus 125. I have to ask myself, what is the highest common factor? If there is a common factor. That's the first thing you ask when you factorize. And in this case, yes, we do have the highest common factor. And the highest common factor is what? 25. Right? 25 into what? X minus 5. Right? Because 25 goes how many times into 125? It goes 5 times. Now we have a unique situation where x minus 5 divides into x minus 5. So it goes once, right? Or in other words, we cancel, right? We cancel. Then we are left with x plus 5 all over 25. So which one corresponds to the answer that we found here? It's B, x plus 5 over 25. So B is the correct answer. Now moving on to the next question. If it is given that y to the power of 5 equals to 50, x to the power of 2 equals to 10, determine the value of y to the power of 10, x to the power of negative 2. How do we solve this one, guys? So they gave us y to the power of 5 is 50, x squared is 10. Determine the value. So let me ask you a question. We need to express these things in terms of what we're given, okay? So they gave us y to the power of 10. Y to the power of 10, we can say it's y to the power of 5 times y to the power of 5. Are we wrong for doing this? No, we are not, because we know that the laws of exponents says when the bases are the same, you simply add the exponent. So you can also do the same. You can also separate these things into two separate things like this. So if I have y to the power of 10, I can pretty much separate into y to the power of 5 and y to the power of 5, right? And then x to the negative 2, I can express it as what? 1 all over x squared. Am I wrong for doing that? No, I'm not, right? And then what will be my answer? So we realize that y to the power of 10, x to the negative 2 is actually what? Y to the power of 5 times y to the power of 5, because y to the power of 5 times y to the power of 5 gives us y to the power of 10. And x to the negative 2 is actually the same as what? As 1 over x squared, according to the rules of the exponents, right? And then we have a situation where y to the power of 5 is what? They said is 50. And 50 times 50, right? Times what? 1 over 10. Can you see that? Right? Now 10 goes how many times into 50? It goes 5 times. So I have 50 times 5, which is what? 50 times 5 is what? 250. Can you all see that? So that means the correct answer here is D. Now, 1.9, which quadrilateral is equiangular but not always equilateral? Let me repeat it. Which quadrilateral? So whenever you hear the word quadrilateral, you have to think about 4 sides. 4 sides, or a 4-sided, 4 sides, right? A 4-sided what? A 4-sided thing, right? And then equiangular, angles are equal. equilateral, all sides are what? Are the same, basically, right? So, which quadrilateral is equiangular, but not always equilateral? And I can say it will be what? Rectangle. You know why I'm saying it's a rectangle? A rectangle is like this, right? A rectangle is like this. So all the angles, they are equal. And they are what? All angles are equal. All angles are equal. And all angles are what? 90 degrees. They're right angled. So there's only two shapes that have equiangular, right? There's only two quadrilaterals that are equiangular. It's a square and a rectangle. So even a square has what? Even in a case of a square, the angles are what? They are the same. But the difference between a rectangle and a square is that in a case of rectangle, the sides are not equal. But a square, yes, all four sides are equal. So a square has equiangular features and it also has equilateral features. Whereas in the case of a rectangle, it's only equiangular features, but the sides are not always equilateral. The sides are not always equal. A parallelogram, of course, has what? Opposite sides, they are parallel and they are equal. So not all sides are, not all of them are equilateral. So a parallelogram doesn't have equilateral, nor does it have equiangular. A rhombus, yes, a rhombus does have equilateral features. That's why a square is a rhombus, right? A square is a rhombus because of a rhombus has equal sides, right? So in this case, a rectangle is the quadrilateral, which is equiangular. Remember, like I said, it can only be a rectangle or a square, right? For this question. And in this case, it's a rectangle because of a rectangle does not always have equilateral sides. So which of the statements below is false? All parallelograms are quadrilateral. Yes, all parallelograms are four-sided. All rectangles are parallelograms, meaning they have opposite sides and the opposite sides are parallel to each other. Opposite sides are equal and opposite sides are parallel to each other. Yes, all rectangles are in fact parallelograms. What about squares? All squares are rhombuses. What are rhombuses known for? Equal sides. Then therefore all squares are rhombuses. So as a result, A, B, C is correct. All rectangles are squares. Now this one is wrong right away. This one is wrong. Rectangles are not squares. We already established that, right? But everything else is true. Guys, we'll continue this video. We'll do question 2 in the next video, okay? So I hope you guys understand that, you know, the kinds of thing that you'll get, you know, in your term 1 test. So these are some of the things that you'll get. But otherwise, thank you so much for paying attention and we will continue in the next video, okay? Peace.